Welcome to Two Guys and Mike podcast. I'm your host, Jason Thompson, and the fabulous
Michael Vincent.
We come to you from an undisclosed location in upstate New York, and where we talk about everything and everything. We have a wonderful guest today, Mr. David Ball from Waterford. He's the supervisor, and we'll lead right into it. How things going there, Mike?
Things are going great. Great.
Nice.
Had a great day today. Got done with work a little early, so that's always a plus.
Very good.
And
Very good. Nice.
That's about it.
And Dave, welcome to our podcast.
Guys, was this a setup or what?
No. We'll go easy on you. We'll go easy on you. Just today, though. We'll go easy on you. Tell us something about yourself. How'd you ascend to the supervisorship?
Well, actually, it's an interesting story. I'll try and keep it to the pertinent details.
Oh, you can elaborate all you want.
I, grew up in the village and the town. Most of my life there. Did a little tour in the service, got me away from the community, and coming back here.
What branch?
Navy.
Nice.
And ended up settling back in Waterford with my family, and went to work on renovating an old house in the village. And
That's right. That's right. I know you are.
And it was a labor of love for sure, because it's also frustrating. But at the end of the day, you put your roots down and you get established. And there was a little bit of turmoil going on in the village at the time.
Still is.
It still is to some degree. This is probably the start of it all. But there was a grant program. There was some issues and concerns about how it was being administered. And a gentleman by the name of Frank Falcone.
I've heard that name several times.
Who had been long-term involvement in politics.
Yeah.
Not just politics. He was involved with the Waterford Rescue Squad, Pecos Firehouse, volunteered basketball, all the things he did. And he happened to be the local milkman at the time when I was a kid as well. But anyways, Frank came to me one day, and he phone rang. He said, "Hey, I'd like to come down and talk to you." Now, I knew Frank from a distance, but knew his sons. Al who deceased, unfortunately, was a schoolmate of mine. I wanted to talk to you about some things going on and get some feedback. So I said, "Sure, Frank, come on down." And we sat in the kitchen, and he.
No. Were you involved in the town at the time, or just a resident?
Not involved in it. Just a guy.
Yeah.
And we got talking about things, and he said, I think I'm running for mayor. And I don't remember if he held office in the village at the time, but running for mayor at that particular juncture was a bit of an uphill slug, because the party that was in power had been in power for like 75 years. And they pretty much ran everything, and not to denigrate them at all. 75 years is a long time, but there were concerns, and so Frank decided to put a ticket together, and he asked me if I would support him and join him and run with him, and I said I'd rather be shot, but I valued him. He was a very sincere man, right? And so I decided that I'll join. Don't know if we'll make any difference or even win at this point, but I'll get together with you. And we went about filling out the rest of the ticket, and we ran that year. And the interesting thing about that particular election is that the party at the time that Frank was representing, which is the Waterford Republican Party, Frank was a lifelong Democrat.
Okay. Oh, switch parties.
No.
He ran as
I'm really a Democrat, but here was the deal. He went and sought endorsements, and he didn't get them. So he went and had a conversation with some of the people who were involved in the Republican Party at the time, and they agreed to back him, which is unusual. Not unusual, but unusual. Okay. So anyways, Frank ran, and Frank won. Okay, and he run pretty handily as well as the one or two other candidates that ran with us, and I lost.
Oh.
Yeah. I lost by about, I think it was 10 votes or something like that,
You didn't hold enough babies, Dave.
I guess, Yeah. But, and listen, Frank felt bad, because I was with him from the get-go. But quite honestly, You know, for me, it was a learning experience, and
Sure.
and you go. So he said, "Well, I really need help because we don't know what we've got going on here." And he said, "I need you to help me get my hands around the finances and things like that." So I agreed to be. I don't remember what the title was at the time. It was an appointed position. It was just to kind of get our hands around the finances and the books, and so I did. And that wasn't my forte at the time, but we got to the bottom of certain things, and then that's a story for another day.
Sure.
But in any event, we got some things straightened out, things back on track, and then 2 years later, I ran again, and that time I won. And that time we actually the full ticket won. So first time in 75 years there was a turnover in the village, and we had a brand new slate of.
So for years and years, the village was Democrat and turned to
Actually,
Republican.
it wasn't. It was called the Citizens Party at the time.
Oh,
Yeah, and so the Citizens Party was pretty strong. Had a pretty strong village anchor, and they also had some weight in town as well. I don't remember to what extent, but they did have a coalescence around them in certain offices. So they were and there were some good people that we all knew as kids that were supervisors and mayors and things like that. It's just that, like anything else, sometimes people, like they did in Albany the other day, they decided to make a change for better or for worse.
Right.
So in that case, that's how I got started. And then a few years after that, my life situation changed. I got an opportunity to build a house in Waterford, and so I went about doing that. But unfortunately, that move took me out of the village. And it's really interesting. I tried to find a place in the village where I could either build or buy or whatever, but I needed more space. I needed a bigger place, and I just couldn't find that opportunity. So I ended up moving out of the village, which took me. I had to resign my office in. I think around 96 or so. I was in office for maybe 4 years.
is that a prerequisite that if you're part of the village government, you have to live in the village?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, as well as, but the town is not the case.
Okay.
Somebody can live in the village and also help town office.
I
but
think
not
that
vice
should be
versa.
changed, to
Yeah.
tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I think whether
So,
if you live in Waterford, you
yeah.
should be either village or town.
Yeah, I would say
I think that would probably help some of the problems we have.
So that's how it started, and I can honestly say that I know people on all sides of the equation in terms of politics, and I've had, I think, fairly good relationships with people of all persuasions, conversation. You can't just, put somebody away and say you're the bad guy.
Right.
First off, this is Waterford.
Yeah.
This is not national politics here.
Correct.
We live in a community.
We're all neighbors.
That community, we're all neighbors. Very good
Yeah.
point. And we all have to live together. We have to work together, and we have to strive to make it a better place as much as we can. Okay, and that's what's important. And never shut the door on anything. Really, that's been my philosophy.
So with that said, it leads me to actually one of the questions I want to ask you, as the incoming supervisor, obviously. Is there some place on your platform of things to do that would help forge a bond between the village and the town a little more than it has been in recent years? Because unfortunately, we're all Waterford.
Yeah, right. We know,
and yet we seem to have
Yeah.
two separate entities that don't work together too well.
Yeah, we all know the pros and cons of that, don't
Yeah.
we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it begins with attitude. Okay, it starts there. There are certain things legally that they just cannot do. There are opportunities, I think, to share services in some respects that present some challenges in terms of how do you do it and when do you do it and who pays for things. That's always crux of the matter. But I think a cooperative attitude between the village and the town just helps both. Okay, and I think the community at some point may have to look at both the entities and decide, like there was back in, after 75 years of the last party, is it time for a change? How do you do that? Now, I will say that process is a consolidation, which we've all know can be done, requires a majority vote of both parties, the town and the village.
I was say, is that something that can come like on a referendum?
It's a referendum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't say that this is the time. It really is something that really needs to be seriously discussed. I will say this, having looked at several efforts throughout New York State to do that over the last decade or two, I think all but one have failed. I think 8 or 9 communities actually took up a vote, and maybe one. I know most of them have failed for various reasons. So I don't know.
So it's not in the favor of combining then. The statistics aren't in the favor.
Yeah,
of
I mean, people get set in their community identities. They're reluctant to change. Okay, change doesn't come easy, right? It doesn't come without some changes all the way around, and people's changes in mindset and how things get done. The status of Waterford, you could argue, I won't argue, should it be a village or should it be a town? It can't be a city, because by population we don't qualify for city status. That would be great if we did, because that opens up the door to a lot more funding opportunities, grant opportunities, and revenue sharing. But we'll never be that way. Like, we won't be a GOES, But we'll probably always be a town of Waterford. And let's not forget, before there was a town, there was a village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took the village to build the town.
Yeah.
We're all neighbors.
Yeah.
I think as a village resident, that's always been a thorn in my side, is that here we pay for, we have village tax, town tax, school tax, and yet none of them work together.
Well, if you look at
Look
at the services provided, there's definitely a disparity.
Yeah.
One of the things that is common. So in the town budget process, we have an A and a B aspect to the budget, and to just digest that a little bit, A fund is basically what everything that the town does in sharing with shared services that involve the village. The best example of that is public safety. Okay, that's a big A fund thing. Where in the B fund, you have your biggest entity there under that fund is the highway department. And those are services specifically to the town. Okay, so as a village taxpayer and a town taxpayer, you fund the A fund, which is in part public safety, plus some other things. So everybody pays that piece of it. But under B fund, which is another, substantial number.
Only the town pays that.
Town taxpayers pay for that. And that's your highway, your garbage, all that stuff, So, yeah. It's an interesting, when you dissect it, how it all.
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated than what it seems on the surface.
Yeah, it's really, we've been very fortunate to have some very good fiscal officers in place, and I want to see a minute for my predecessor, Jack Lawler, and his associate, Bill Kutu. They ran a tight ship in terms of dollars and cents. There was an accounting for almost every dime that was spent in the town that came from tax revenue or from grant funding, and that's your first. That is a primary responsibility. That your fiduciary liability, your fiducial responsibility is huge, and we endeavor to continue that going forward as well. It's critical. Literally, you can go open a book or a computer spreadsheet and say, here's where the money went. Right to the dollar.
If only the federal government worked like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If only.
Yeah.
Good question.
So, with this warm weather, pool's open now?
Pool's open as of today. Yeah.
Okay.
6 to 12 for Waterford residents. There was some talk. I saw some of the chatter on Facebook today about water aerobics and things like that. And I can't say that I don't know. This is always a work in progress as to what we can do, and finding people to do it is the other challenge. One of the biggest things is to find in today's lifeguards.
Yeah,
they're a premium, so that determines a lot when you can open the pool.
Hours of operation.
Have they opened earlier this year?
No, which is typically when we
it was
open.
earlier.
Yeah. If we haven't opened prior to that, it's been for technical reasons.
Okay.
And for help. You've got to have certified lifeguards. And they're, for the most part, students. So when they're free, we're open. When they've got to go back to school, we got to
close
go
up
back.
shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is in almost every town.
Gotcha.
Yep. So the pool's open. Oh, we'll talk a little briefly about the big issue of the day, which is the town hall.
Yeah,
Touch on
that was
briefly
actually a
little bit.
question that has come up.
Yeah.
We actually, in full disclosure, we put on our Facebook page if anybody had any questions that they wanted us to ask you.
Sure.
And we got quite a few. And one of the ones was what's going on with the clock tower and all the scaffolding.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know, and I know it's been bannered about that we're getting
Sure.
ready for Back to the Future and everything.
Yeah, we are. Was it 1.21 gigawatts?
I believe that's our friend
Gigawatt.
Finster that put that out there.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
DeLorean right up here.
Yeah, that's right. Doc.
Who's got the wire? I
Yeah.
got the wire.
So what's going on with that?
Yeah, interesting. Well, the clock tower, and it is that's an iconic thing. Whether you're in the town or the village, you come over the hill, across the bridge, down the street. What do you see? That tower's been there since, forever. It's actually been there since 1960. So
Really? I thought it was.
Well,
I would have
the
thought it was later, even earlier than that.
the original
Okay.
town hall burnt pretty much to the ground. If you want to see a picture of it, there's a picture of it in my office of the original town hall. It looks rather scary. It's
That old
turrets and all kinds of crazy stuff in it.
Victorian look.
Yeah,
Really? Cool.
yeah. So it burnt pretty much down to the foundation, I guess. So what you see today is the reconstruction of the original building, and it's totally been that whole upper structure is totally different than what it was. To give you an idea of what it might have looked like, you're familiar with the Cohoe City Hall?
Yeah.
And their turret structure up there. The Waterford was very similar, so it must have been a theme of the architecture of the day back in that. And that building was back in the 1800s, probably 1850, 1860. I don't know the exact date. Russ Vandervoort would know that, the historian. Okay, but so what you see was built up from there. So that tower's been there as part of the redesign, rebuilt from the fire. With that, there's the clock and everything. So, like anything else up there, if you want to get a hair-raising experience, stick your head outside the cupola up top there when there's a storm blowing through. That thing weathers some amazing
I'm
weather.
sure.
Wait a minute. So,
There's the building right
oh,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it right there. So yeah, you can see how that stands out, right? So it was pretty well weathered. Paint was chipping off of it. It was just really getting disrepair. Becomes an eyesore, and when something's as iconic a figure as that in your community, you have a responsibility to take care of it.
Absolutely.
You know?
I believe that.
Yeah, you do. So now, what triggered all that was the front part of the building there. That roof has serious damage to it, just wear and tear. And we're experiencing issues on the subsequent floors from water infiltration. And so with some money that we're able to get our hands on, we were able to fund repairs to the front portion of the roof. The back portion of the building was done several years back, but that front portion is in really bad shape. So with that, we've got scaffolding up there, we've got people up there, manpower up there, and you're up in the air. And it just made sense that if we're going to go to all that length to get things up there, let's take care of the tower. So we had to scrimp and find where we're going to pay for that too as well. But we just let that under another contract. We're able to combine that into the process of the work. And that work had to be done before the roof is done. You can't get people up there with sloppy painters, you know how they are.
Sure.
Dripping paint all over your new roof, right?
Or damaging it.
Or damaging, yeah, for that matter. So the tower's done. The roof will come next.
Now, a question. I
Yeah.
noticed on the top of the flagpole,
Right.
there's a weather vane, or what's left of a weather vane.
What's left?
Is that part of the repair, or is that
Now,
going to stay the way it
challenge
is?
is somebody who's going to get up there. We just didn't.
I'll front up a 12-pack of beer. Whoever wants to do it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'll tell you that. I've been up there, and I'm not.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm setting a foot back there ever again.
Sure. Now, the top of that is that a copper roof, or is that a?
That is a copper roof, and somebody asked why aren't we polishing it?
Again, who wants to get up there and?
Yeah, we had just enough money to get the paint done and scraping done. That was done.
Is that through a grant money, or is that?
That came from.
We found it from here, live from there.
Town. Yeah, we had to go into town coffers for that.
Should have said it was a town hall in in the Ukraine, it would have been
Well,
paid for by taxpayers.
if you know about construction, you don't polish copper.
You don't.
That patina that you get on the copper is
You
actually
don't.
what makes it last.
Exactly.
It helps protect the surface of it, so
Thank
you
you.
leave that alone.
Thank you for bringing it up. I was going to
Wow,
go.
Mike, thanks.
But we did find Mike up there was a hole in the copper in the shield. So and they did find that. So by the way, do you know you've got a hole in that copper? So the roofing company said we'll fix it while we're up there.
Yeah.
So they're able to go in and solder a new piece over the top of it and get it done. But
I'm sure that's
to
a
your
lost
point,
art.
yes,
Yeah.
you don't.
It's got to be a lost art, soldering copper under
Oh
it.
yeah. I used to do it with my father.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah. You know how to solder your joints and wipe them down afterwards, and do all that stuff. You know,
Fun.
That is an art.
Fun.
It is. So the paint job is done. The scaffolding, what's there is left, is going to come down. As you know, we've had some issues, and then the roofing job will commence, I believe, next week sometime.
Okay.
So and that should be watertight and last for another. What do guarantee roofs? I don't know.
Anything being done with the clock itself?
Well, the clock is another issue. Again, the funding wasn't for clocks.
Sure.
But that clock is, as I said, is as old as the building is. The mechanism is as old as well. So it's a system of gears, and it all four directions are
Yeah.
faces. You know, so there's quite a mechanism up there, and it was all one of made at the time. You know, so anything that it's been repaired over the years, and many times it's been handmade gear or part or something like that that's been fitted in there.
Yeah.
And we've just run out of resources. We've had people
sure.
look at it and said, you know.
Yeah, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just so cost prohibitive to fix it. That,
It is. It costs money no matter what you do, but I think it's something worth really figuring out.
I agree with that.
It's worth figuring out.
Actually, in Back to the Future, didn't they actually have a fundraiser to save the clock tower? Wasn't that actually
I
something?
think you're right.
Yeah.
I think it might be
Save
time
the
to
clock
get back-
tower. Have somebody stand out there with a sandwich board.
Yeah.
Save the clock tower.
Yeah. So one of the ideas I'm currently looking at is there a way that we can turn that? Can we digitize it somehow? Not the click. Keep the face, keep the hands,
Yeah.
but can we get a digital mechanism in there electronically? And it might be like power each.
Have a digital clock as
Each
opposed to
window?
digital motors. Yeah.
Yeah, digital set of motors. It might be each one has its own motor or gizmo. There's a couple companies I've found that do restoration and modifications to that effect.
Yeah.
I don't know what they cost yet. I just started that process, but I've said maybe it might be something that, for budgetary reasons, we could only chip off maybe a piece at a time.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good goal.
I
Yeah,
think it's, and
yeah.
I also
Gotta
think
start
it's money.
somewhere with
I also think it's money well spent. It's an icon of our community.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah, yeah. If it makes sense, I mean, yeah, it's rate twice a day though. Couldn't let that one go.
That's right. That's right. So another question we had. Do you mind if I go another question?
Go for it.
So the next question I had, and I'm sure you could guess where this generates from, but the barbecue pits at the harbor, they were taken down, and for whatever reason, and none were ever replaced.
You know,
So people are wondering when they'll come back,
yeah, they're
or
probably not coming back.
no?
You know,
For what reason?
The ones that were missing were damaged by floods and ice,
Okay.
and they were just taken out. The one that was left was bent over, was collecting a good garbage collector,
Okay.
and quite frankly didn't get used. Now, if somebody did want to barbecue down there and they want to bring something down there, they're welcome to it. But we decided not to replace them simply because the constant repair and damage. And if you look at all of them that were there was only one I think that was getting use, which might be the focus of this question. I understand where they're coming from, but it's not high on the priority list right now when people can make other accommodations. One thing I want to say about that too, the one that was the last remaining one that wasn't, it was damaged, but it was still there. That actually is in a state park land. So the piece of property that's adjacent to the bridge, the ramp, the approach,
Yeah.
that property that's at the parking lot next to between the visitor center and the ramp, approach ramp, that piece of land there is actually owned by state parks. So that's their property, and that's where they're.
Wasn't there a barbecue pit between the visitor center and the bridge?
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking on Battery Park. Okay, I'm
No,
sorry.
that's state parkland right there.
Okay, is it really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Yeah.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Puts that to rest.
yeah. Oh, that was the question we had. I mean, people were asking.
Yeah.
What can I tell you?
Absolutely.
What is your next question there, Mr. Michael?
Well, I like the way Waterford does things for the community. You know, I see that you have had success in the past with the movies up at the Sugarloaf Pond. You have another one this
Coming
weekend.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
School of Rocks.
School of Rock.
School of Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
You know?
love Jack Black.
Yeah, he is good. Did you see him with Tenacious D? That's his band.
Yeah.
And they do what the hell is that song? Sound of Silence. He sings it, and
Oh, really?
it sounds incredible. It really, it sounds pretty amazing. If you Google that, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun movie and a fun time. I was just talking to people that are going to be running that show up there Friday, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Now, I'm not at liberty to say what the next two titles are going to be.
Okay.
I'll get back to you.
Inquiring minds want to know, Dave.
Yeah, but we can.
What are the dates going to be of those? Do you know? Can you disclose?
Well, they're going to be
that?
Fridays.
Fridays?
Yeah, we're going to try and do one about every week. I'm going to kind of preempt my board by saying this. I'd like to see if we can maybe throw an extra one in here and there, but we'll see.
Okay.
We've
Yeah.
got to talk about that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice. As far as
Where's a good location? Look around town, and here I want to touch on this. That venue is Sugarloaf Pond, okay,
Yep.
which is a great venue. It's an iconic place, another iconic place. But we have Clement Park over North Side, which is almost it's a built-in amphitheater kind of a
where's
spot.
Climate Park? Where's
Up
that?
the end of Clifton Street.
Okay. Yes.
Yep.
I know what you're talking about. Basketball courts up there,
Yep,
across
yep.
from
That-
Wesleyan Church.
There's restrooms there and a
Yeah.
few other things, we've invested in over the past few years. And then you look at the other side of town, which is up off of Mallard's Landing South. And if you go down, you're familiar with Alcathy's. And the road that parallels Alcathy's, the parking lot runs around the back and then comes up the other
Is that what
side.
the pickleball court
Yeah,
is?
that park right there, that's a great little park. And there's a pavilion there and stuff. So we're starting to look at, I want to look at those venues. What can we do in those areas? Community, okay?
Sure.
And last night we held the monthly agenda meeting at the Visitor Center, or Senior Center on 2nd Street here.
Yep.
And that's because we had the town hall under lockdown. And that's money well spent, that building, in my opinion, simply because it's used, number one. But the property in back, the land in back, which is waterfront property, number one, and it's right on the Hudson, and it's got a veranda in the back. Have you ever been back there to see it?
No.
You got to take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, it is quite nice. So there's tables out there. It's nice.
Yeah, you're a senior. You can go check it out.
There's a nice,
Thanks for that one.
Well,
there's a nice knee wall there and stuff. So and a great piece of lawn that goes right out to the river. I'm thinking, boy, what a spot this is for doing almost anything.
Yeah.
So we've got these locations around town that I think lend themselves to doing things like that in different locations. And again, one of the things I like to do is engage the rest of the whole community, not just a particular neighborhood. So we'll see.
I think that's great. I like that a lot, actually.
Spread the wealth.
Another one. Lastly, one of the questions I thought was a really good one is, what's the plan for Saratoga Avenue and repaving?
Wow.
These are big ones. I mean, I had tons that came in, so I kind of wanted to pick through
that's fine.
the ones that I feel were the most.
No, I'll take as many as you want to throw. Saratoga Avenue, as we all know, let's understand.
It is a state road.
It's a state highway. It's Route 30, New York State Route 32, and it is from Albany. And actually, 32 goes all the way down the Hudson.
Past
River.
Ravina, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, past there, and it goes right up to through Stillwater, Schuylerville, all up through that way. So it's a state road. And so we're on the state's timetable for that. The road needs a lot of work, and it needs a lot more work, in my opinion, than just blacktop. There's
Yeah, because you have cobblestone underneath there, plus
whole
railroad
cobblestone,
tracks
there's
and
trolley tracks,
Yeah.
and all kinds of stuff that it's constant motion underneath any surface there. Water infiltrates,
Yeah.
and it just creates havoc under that. And it's one of those things that needs constant maintenance, certainly more, in my opinion, than what it gets.
Yeah.
There's a lot of traffic on that road.
Huge amount of
Huge amount of traffic. Big traffic, too.
big
Tractor trailers.
53-foot tractor
yeah.
trailers come over that thing.
That is the one thing I have to say that I'd love to see change is circumvention of the village by tractor trailer and
Yeah.
heavy traffic.
I know it's been a constant issue.
It destroys our village downtown.
It does, and it detracts. Listen, I grew up on Broad Street,
You know it.
smelling diesel
Yeah.
in my window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know what that's all about. But yeah. So, anyways, the state. I know Tony Lubis, our highway superintendent, has been going back and forth with the state to meetings, and it's just amazing that how things change from week to week in terms of timetable. And there's a lot of other things that need to be addressed. I don't know if you noticed, the highway guy department is doing some work over in the avenue, and we're doing work ahead of the paving, actual paving job, and that's raising the elevations of the manhole covers, and we've excavated around those and secured those. So when they come through there, that's all level grade.
So there is an actual plan of repaving.
Well, they have a plan. The timing is
Yeah.
everybody's guess.
Now, are they going to just repave it or do it right, pull it
They're,
all up and
they're just going to
skim it?
sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Pave over what's there and
Yeah.
not fix the underlying.
Yeah, they're going to mill it and fill it. Basically, is what they're going to do.
Mill it and fill it.
Mill it and
I
fill
like
it.
it.
Yeah. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, on a personal note, I don't know if you ever want to get involved in this conversation, but I have whenever I talk with town supervisors and local officials and even state people for that matter, we're all scrambling for money.
Yeah.
It's the ability to find money. And yet we are constantly giving our resources to other countries.
Sure.
And it drives me nuts when we have things like our clock tower we can't fix, not because the town doesn't want to, but because there's just no money. Or we have roads that are deteriorating and we want to fix them, not because we don't want to, but we have no money. And yet our leaders above give that money away to every other country but ours, and we suffer, we have to pay.
Yeah.
I know it's
No.
a heavy topic, and
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's just a pet
No,
peeve
no.
of mine when we start,
I think
delving down into this.
We all recognize that how much money
We give away.
was wasted. Now, forget giving it away.
Oh,
Just
wait.
sheer waste alone would
Yeah.
fix Saratoga Avenue. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Right. There'd be money for that stuff, and we're caught in a rock and a hard place because they're shoveling money out the door, number one, but they're also bringing in new regulations that cost money. That money comes out of the taxpayers' pockets because none of it is funded. It's all mandated. You must do this and you must do that, and here it is. Here's the regulations, and you must comply. And so, as an entity like Waterford, we're just so big. Our pockets are just so deep. The budget is the budget every year, and we try to stay within that budget. That when another mandate comes in or another regulation is added on, I'll give you a good example of that. It's just that we've got to find the money. Where's it going to come from? They're sending your money out here, and they're asking you to pay for more back on the back end, the taxpayers, and it's falling on the taxpayers.
Yeah.
And
Well, it always falls on the tax.
it always falls on the taxpayers. You're not getting a return on your money that we send out. We're not. We're just
No.
not.
No.
Yep.
Speaking in the same vein of taxes, what is, if you don't want to discuss it, I understand,
sure.
the momentum black elephant in the room.
Well, yeah.
Because if anybody was driven by momentum, all those towers are
Right.
down.
Yeah.
They're raising their property to,
Yeah.
I'm sure,
You-
setting themselves up for a reevaluation there.
You don't have to be a fortune teller to know what's going to go on there.
Yeah.
Right. And that's certainly within the company's right to do. They're an entity, but it's whatever happens there has an impact on not just Waterford, Half Moon
Sure.
as well. It also has an impact on everybody who works there or did work there.
And a lot of people are town residents.
A lot of town residents, every community in around this area has somebody that has worked there or is working there. It's been a huge employer over the years.
Sure.
So, what does the future look like for them? We can almost guarantee that they have a size, a footprint in mind, in which they think it makes sense for them to operate on. And what it didn't make sense for them to do, for probably a lot of reasons that you could agree or disagree with, is continue to be a hardcore manufacturer of silicone product, which is what they've eliminated. All the towers and everything that came out of there, the kilns and all that stuff, were all part of that process to get it down. So they quite honestly can buy product that was made on that site, buy it cheaper, have it sent in, and then manufacture their end product that way. So that's where they're going, and the jobs and the tax base and everything else is going with it. It's just a fact.
Unfortunately, that's going to leave a huge deficit in our budgets.
Everybody's going to have to adjust to that practicality. The town. I can only speak for the town. We've been able to make adjustments. Again, you can only cut just so much, but we've been able to balance between revenue, both tax and revenue sharing from the state and feds, to balance the books and keep things fairly up and fully staffed and providing services. And we're going to strive to continue to do that. Other entities, it may have a far bigger hit on. That could be things like school districts and things like that. And I don't know. I can't speak for them, but
Until it happens,
but it affects everybody. It affects everybody. Yeah. And so you've got this, basically this place that's, what do you do with it? People say, well, bring in other businesses. Well, who's going to move in on a brownfield that's not been mitigated, which is what it will be someday, maybe 20 years in the future. It could be a posh's piece of land that has to be mitigated. The Cooperage is a fine example of that.
Yeah.
All right. So
The where?
the old Fredericton Cooperage over in Saratoga.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a brownfield.
Yeah.
It's all fenced in.
Yeah.
Probably never be used by the geese, but that's about it.
That's about it.
So yeah, it's going to be. I can't say that it's not going to be painful and require some adjusting down the road. It's just a matter of when. Yeah.
Got anything else? I mean, I know I was raining on your parade here, so
No, that's fine.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, Dragon Boat Race
Yeah.
coming up in August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
I
got-
believe you.
Are you going to be out there rowing?
All right.
I have a heart condition.
The old proverbial sports injury there.
Hey, I'm no spring chicken, man.
Oh, no. Well, I got to tell you, I won't be out there either.
Oh, okay. You
So
got a
we
heart
can watch.
condition. You got a heart condition too?
No, just an age condition.
I have a theme song to row with.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Who did?
Let's hear it.
I love that dirty water. Every stroke is a beat, a downbeat.
Yeah.
A downbeat. But actually, Dragon Boat is a huge fundraiser for breast cancer awareness.
Yeah.
It all started out with a relationship with the Komen Institute, which was prominent in helping funding research for breast cancer.
Okay.
The Komen is no longer involved in that, but the research goes on. There are still entities that are out there that are benefactors of the money that's raised for that. So the town's a big supporter of that. I know the race is well received. There's great participation. Seems to be that the fire companies keep, I don't know, they didn't win last year.
No, actually, our mutual friend, the Finsters.
Yeah, it was Sobros.
Yeah,
Sobros. Do we need
the
to explain what
Sobro
the
team.
Sobros
Yes,
is?
it's
The
Sobro
Sobros
team.
one.
That's right.
It wasn't all those firemen, those crazy firemen.
Yeah.
I love it.
It was nice.
Yeah, but that's a big
neighbors one.
that's a big event. It's a worthy charity, as we all know. We all know somebody's been affected by breast cancer, and cancers of all forms are a challenge. So
And let's face it, we all love breasts.
yeah, I didn't go there.
Right, Mike?
Go there.
Yeah.
I had to throw that in because it's a heavy topic. We had to lighten it up a little bit. Cancer is terrible.
Yeah,
It's affecting everybody, and we've all been touched.
We
by
all
that, and
we all personally may have an experience with cancer in
Yeah.
our lifetime.
yeah, my dad's a survivor 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Michael's a survivor.
I've been touched myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of cancer?
Skin cancer, number one. I've had Mohs surgeries and whatnot. And,
Yeah. Not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Not at all.
The other one we wanted to, I know that Mike brought it up, but is going to be the 4th of July fireworks, and I believe they're usually business paid for, right? Or is that solely the town?
Well, it's It's how do I put it? The fireworks have been funded by initially they were funded by what we call the Waterford Industrial Development Agency, which is not a town of Waterford, part of the town of Waterford budget or entity. It's its own.
It's like an IDA type
It's
of
an
thing?
IDA. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how it started. And that came from lending money to businesses in form of loans, commercial loans, which were paid back in interest, and that income revenue was maintained, and that is where the fireworks budget has come from, and that group, which is called, it's now a local development agency, has continued to do that. So that's the budget and where it comes from. That'll continue to be the case. It's a good chunk of money every year we throw up in the air up there.
Listen, I've often said to everybody that wants to listen, I think fireworks between specifically the tugboat roundup ones are probably the best fireworks in the Capital District.
Well, the venue,
hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of the venue and the proximity to the fireworks, there's just not a bad place. And not only do you see it, you feel it, you smell it. You know, it's
feel
all
it.
your sensations
Yes.
going. Yeah.
yes, it's
What's
an immersive experience right in the Harbor Center.
One year I was up on the bridge watching them, and that's when they were going off a little further up the channel, and literally it was getting rained on.
It's raining.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would be remiss not to mention that my good friend Johnny Rabb is playing from 6 p.m. that night prior to the fireworks.
And tugboat roundup.
Johnny Rabb's
Or
big
4th of
band.
July.
4th of July.
4th of July.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think it's sad. Speaking of of these events, we used to have the Grand Erie there, and where all the bands used to set up, and now that I don't believe that's even around anymore.
It's not around anymore.
They were all those tugs were deemed non-safe and non-navigable by the Coast Guard. Believe it or not, all in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
A bunch of them that used to come down, and I thought the Grand Erie was absolutely a
was a
magnificent
great boat.
barge. It
really
was so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. A lot of people worked on that.
Yeah, a lot of local people.
Yeah.
A lot of Waterford's been always surrounded by the canal, and the boats, and people always worked there, and all lived in and around Waterford. It's pretty tied to that river.
There's a tug which is called the Tug Waterford.
Yes, I think it's in Buffalo, right?
No, it's right up in the state yards.
Oh, it is in the state. I thought
I believe
it was in Buffalo.
that's where it is. Boy, that should become a static display if Waterford was ever to have a museum for boats. That should be the centerpiece.
Oh,
I agree with that. I would like to see. Actually,
a
I
lot
think
of heritage right there.
Yeah, I always said I think the state misses out on a. There it is. There is the tug right there.
Yeah.
That looks like the Waterford. I can't tell.
I can't tell. No.
They all look alike to me from here when I don't have my glasses on.
Yellow and blue.
But I look at the Matten shipyard, which was integral during World War II, especially building boats. But I think it would be great to see a lot of the tugs stationed there and have a nice, almost like a tugboat museum and a maritime museum there to tie in with the history of the Mohawk River and the Hudson and the Ford.
It certainly is a good place for it. Lot.
Because they're doing a lot of work there, but it's not used for anything. It's like money spent for nothing.
I have to tell you, it's a brownfield.
Well,
It's
industry was there.
Yeah, I mean, all the paint that was used back in the day to paint.
It's all
those
lead
boats,
paint.
All lead-based paint. Yeah. And there's, I'm sure, fuel oil and all kinds of stuff.
I want to say the Higgins boats that they used for the landings in Normandy were built at Matten Shipyard. Somewhere there. Am I wrong when I say that?
On a Higgins boat in the Pacific.
But I believe some of those were built at the Matten Shipyard. I want to say I read that someplace and I was shocked.
They might have been. There were so many built.
Yeah.
Higgins boat originated out of down somewhere in the Gulf, Alabama or Mississippi, somewhere down there is where they first came up with the design. So they're probably manufactured like aircraft in World War II were manufactured all over the country.
Oh, tanks.
Yeah.
Any facility that can do it.
Yeah.
Maybe had General Motors building air conditioners or respirators when COVID was an issue.
Well, funny because to that point, the job that I do, obviously, I do refrigerant reclaiming, and you get some of the older refrigerant, let's say Frigidaire on them, and have a GM logo right on top of it, because Frigidaire at one time used to be owned by General Motors.
So were the compressors in your cars back
Yeah,
in the day?
but then the antitrust, and they broke all those things up, and they said it was a monopoly or whatever, and good old government getting involved in destroying business.
So a little story about Manton Shipyard. So my father came here from the Philippines prior to World War II, and he ended up settling in Lansingburg, in Waterford, Lansingburg actually, and had formed some friends here in high school. And all those guys enlisted during the war. That many of them dropped out of school and enlisted. But one of the guy's fathers was a mechanic or something over in the shipyard. His name was Homer Folger, and his son went on to be an officer in the Navy, who I happened to serve under briefly. And he also was the captain of the New York State barge fleet at one point as well. He retired from the state service. But anyways, Homer was a dirty word in some circles, an amateur archaeologist, and he took a great interest in Native American locations around this northeast area. And they leveled that piece of ground to the north of the actual shipyard that you see today. It was all leveled at the time of World War II to make room for materials, to stack up materials, to build more boats. And when he did that, they came into bulldozers. They uncovered an amazing amount of artifacts. That was all occupied land at one point in time. And he took it upon himself to save pieces from destruction that were in the ground. Had an amazing collection. I don't know where it all. I think it all got donated eventually, but the ground over there is pretty amazing history.
Yeah. So like where you have Madden Shipyard and it's all the woods just past that. That was what you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's been artificially leveled and then and then grown over to what you see today.
Very good. Pretty good stuff. I'll tell you, I love the history around here. I would love to go back in time and just explore. I mean, you think Waterford at one time had a trolley system going from the village to Cohoes. We had all the industry with the barge canal. And
Horse-drawn trolleys.
What's that?
Horse-drawn trolleys.
Were they horse-drawn?
They were originally horse-drawn.
Did they switch to electric after that? Or, yeah. Pretty. It's just you look at old pictures of Waterford and the hustle and bustle that it used to be.
Sure.
It was incredible.
Oh yeah, the Troy, Cohoes, Waterford. It's all amazing things. That's how Northside. You know how Northside got its name, right?
Cohoes.
North side of Cohoes.
North side of Cohoes. Mail came out of the post office in Cohoes.
When did Waterford buy North Side from Cohoes?
It didn't. It was always part of Waterford.
Okay.
But it was just for postal reasons. Like part of Half Moon is a Waterford postal.
Right here.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah.
Oh, undisclosed location. Damn it.
Good example, right?
It's funny because I used to have a house over on North Side on Davis Ave, and I bought the house, and after closing, I went up in the attic, and there was an old chest up there, and there was old postcards, and it was to the address. It was Davis Avenue, North Side of Cohoes, New York.
Wow, yeah.
I thought that was cool. I still have that at the house.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Let's open up a can of worms here.
Yep.
Is it North Side or is it North Side?
North Side.
North Side.
North Side. There's a TH.
North Side?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like that North
Is
Side.
it Stewart's or Stewart's? Come on.
Oh, I don't care about that.
See?
One way or the other.
Well,
But growing up on North Side.
that argument's
I
going to
like the
continue to rage.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's-
yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun argument.
I think you're wrong,
Yeah.
Mike. It's North Side.
Okay.
Being not
As he
a
says, just a
Waterford
bit,
guy, I have no idea.
Just wants to stir the pot.
So,
here.
in closing, what are upcoming projects that we can look forward to? What are things in the pipeline that that we can look to have? And
Well, I
Big things
think
being built?
unfortunately, if you're looking for skyrockets at night and things like that, it's going to be a little mundane around here because we have to invest over the next several years in infrastructure. We have an aging infrastructure like a lot of other municipalities. Our wastewater treatment facility, you're old enough to remember when they actually broke ground for that.
Yeah.
It's on the site of the old Eddie Valve Manufacturing Corporation. But that property, that infrastructure, and everything that's associated with it is well over 50, 60 years old now. It gets a battering, just think about what goes on there, right? So that system is going to require...
I don't want to think what goes on there.
I know, me neither. I've seen it firsthand recently. So that's going to require a major investment over the next 5 to 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
We're going to tackle that. Equipment. You guys are driving trucks every day on the road. You know how hard it is to buy a snow plow, a dump truck, anything like that. Even a police car today is a challenge. A, they're more expensive, and B, the supply chain is so limited.
Yeah.
Some of the equipment we've got is aged as well and is requiring replacement as well. So we're going to be investing in those things that actually keep things running.
Yeah.
And then we're going to find opportunities to develop commercially wherever we can. The North Side Corridor has undergone a rejuvenation recently. Now, if you think about it, you can drive and literally within, what's that, a half a block? Well, let's start off with Dr. LaFave. You can go there, you can get an adjustment, and then you go next door and get a cup of coffee and a donut at Stewart's and fill your tank while you're there. Go to a hardware store, pick up your hammers and nails. Go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger. Run across the street, get a six-pack. Go next door, have a margarita or something, right? Then you can go next door to that and, if it's your choice, invest in some not homegrown stuff, but commercially grown stuff. And pretty soon we're going to have Waterford Wines and Liquors there too.
I think I can't wait for that to open. Actually, I was disappointed and dismayed when the one closed.
Yeah, well, this is going to be 5 times better than that.
Yes, it looks huge.
Yeah. I spoke with the owners.
When is that anticipated being open? Do you know?
Well, he had their hearing in front of the SLA last week, so I'm assuming they got approval because they're pretty much built out and ready to go once they get their license. He's an attorney in Albany. He's a primary investor in the property and owner. He's the investor in the business. So I anticipate they'll be open within a month or so. Yeah. So that's a busy place.
Sure.
A lot of traffic goes through back there, as you know. That's one of the challenges, But then we have some, as you know, we've been poking around at solar initiatives. The one that's been proposed and been in development processes right now is on hold to some degree. There's some technical issues they need to work out. And then there's another
What's the solar initiative?
What's their issues?
No, what's the initiative going on?
Well,
in case some people don't know.
the old Liberties Grove property, which is the very end opposite the Cadell, Lock 6 Garden Gates. Over there is a big piece of land that they've acquired. And they're putting Seaboard Solar's looking at putting a solar system there.
Okay.
And then the Catallo property is being evaluated. I don't know if that'll end up being developed for that purpose. There's a lot of potential up there for a lot of development. But
As in homes or?
it could be anything up there.
Okay.
Whatever it takes is going to take a lot of money to do. You've got traffic to deal with. You've got infrastructure investment to make. You've got water to deal with. There's a lot of things up there that are going to require, an awful lot of planning and whatnot.
Yeah.
Before anything happens.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I want to say, do you have anything further you want to ask?
No, I think we covered
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's fine.
I really appreciate you coming into the gauntlet here. You know that.
But a pleasure. It wasn't painful at all.
No, not at all.
You came in with harsh expectations. I have to say, you were like, what am I?
We could go on another hour if you wanted to go other directions, but
Well, I wasn't sure what you wanted to talk about. This is your first visit to the Lion's Den here.
I'll come back anytime you want.
Absolutely, that'd be great. I mean, I'd love to dive into some more national topics if you want to and stuff
go
like
as
that.
deep as you want to go.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I like that. I think maybe we'll have like a round table and have some of the other local guys in here and chit chat.
It could get rather interesting.
That'd be fun. Next time we'll have to have some booze. Loosen us up.
What makes you think that's not?
There you go.
Well, I wasn't going to be presumptuous, but
Does that all look like soda pop to you? I don't know.
No, it looks like a pretty good cold beverage actually. But thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
It goes good with vodka.
Just idea.
What do you think's in here? Funny, great minds think alike, right?
Yeah, I know.
Well, they also
thanks,
say
guys.
They also say fools seldom
I do
differ.
appreciate it. This is a great idea you guys have got going on.
And I said it to a lot of people. Anybody who wants to come on and talk about something, shoot us a DM or a talk. You want something you want to address, and you want a little public audience.
Yeah. I've got two plugs.
Okay.
Permit me.
Let's hear.
A, for the Waterford Police Department, the job they're doing.
Well, Dave,
I see your patch. That's
there
what
you go.
reminded me.
We support our men in blue.
Our courts is the second busiest court in the county right now.
Okay.
Just the activities that's going on there. We've invested. We've got a new officer starting this week. Jacob Espy just graduated. And we've got 2 new officers who just entered the academy this week as well. So we're investing in more manpower there. So
3 new officers.
3 new officers. Those guys do yeoman's work there. And
I know, because unfortunately we've lost a couple of good guys.
Yeah,
through retirement.
Retirement,
and
yeah.
thankfully we're able to get one back as a commissioner.
Public
but
safety commissioner,
you
a
know,
lot of
it's
experience there. It'd be crazy to let that guy.
yeah. The problem is, I was talking to one of the officers the other day. It's not that you just lose the officer, you lose all of that intimate knowledge they have of the community and of the people that live within it,
Sure.
and their knowledge that they've gained over the myriad of years they've been doing it.
Yeah.
That you can't replace that. You can't teach that. You can't buy that. It's something that we intrinsically
time.
lose. Yeah.
And I've got actually 2 more.
Okay.
One is our fire departments, our volunteer fire departments.
Yep.
The work they do, the service they provide this community in times of risk and danger
priceless.
is huge. And the people that commit their time and energy to doing that,
Volunteers, no less. Yeah.
they're incredible,
Yeah.
incredible guys and girls that do that work. Half Moon, Waterford Fire, everybody works together. You want to see teamwork, go to a fire and watch what happens there.
Or if anybody feels the calling, they're always looking for volunteers.
Please do. Wednesday night, most of these places are open. Be happy to talk with somebody about what it means.
If ever you want to come back in and bring a couple of fire chiefs from the different
Yeah, happy to do
houses,
that, yeah.
you know, we'll be happy to have them come on and they can talk about what they do and, you know, open it up, you know, some questions or whatever.
And I'm going to leave you with one last thing.
Let's hear it.
Rye bread.
Rye bread.
Rye bread.
Okay, guys, we'll get into that.
Thank you very much. And everybody else, until we meet again.
Till we meet again.